Okay, so I'm going to do the review sheet for your first test of the third quarter. The first question says, Dwight and Mose each own a beet farm. Dwight starts with 50 beets and says his farm is growing exponentially. So he starts with 50 beets and his farm is growing exponentially at a rate of 20% per month. Mose starts with 150 beets and his farm is steadily decreasing by 10%. This word steadily is really important and the word exponentially is really important. They say, assuming both men are accurate in describing their harvest, after how many months will they have approximately the same number of beets? Justify. Justify just means show your work. So Dwight has exponential growth, so we're going to use a beats the x for him. But Mose, he has a steady decrease, so that's actually just a line because it's steadily going down by the same rate every day. Dwight's equation is going to have a as 50 because that's his initial, and 1 plus 0.20 as his b value to the x because 0.20 refers to the 20%. Mose starts with 150 beets and it's going down by 10 beets per month, so it's going to be minus 10x. Okay, they want to know when they will be the same. So you're going to set these two equations equal to each other. And then you're going to solve. Now, the problem with this is that the x value, 1 is in the exponent. This guy here on the left side, that's in the exponent. This is not. So the only way to solve this is by using our calculators and putting this into y1 and that into y2 and finding where they intersect. Now, the highest value we're dealing with is 150, so you're probably going to want to make your y max at least 200 or whatever, big enough to see this picture. You're going to find this picture here, and you're going to find x would give you about 4.2 months. Next question asks you to solve and round to the nearest thousandth. So the first thing you want to do is you want to realize that x is in the exponent. So eventually you're going to need to use a log or ln. I'm going to have to use ln because I have a base of e. So what you're going to have to do first is you're going to have to get everything away from this box here with the e. You're not going to add these two together. What you're going to do is you're going to subtract the 1.45 because that would be a proper way to start to get x alone. So you're going to subtract this, you get 6e to 0.32x equals 32.78. Then you're going to divide by 6 because you need to get the e alone to put the ln in front. That divided by 6 is going to get you 5.463 about. Keep that decimal in your calculator. Now you're going to want ln on either side because you're going to bring this exponent down. So you get 0.32x. We don't need to write the ln e anymore because that cancels out to 1. I have ln of 5.463 now. All right, now I'm going to divide by 0.32. Divide by 0.32, and I'll end up getting my x value of 5.306 rounding to the nearest thousandth. This question asks for the inverse. Now, if you remember, a log's inverse is an exponent. So all you have to do is actually just write this as an exponent, y equals 3 to the x. If you want the real explanation, if you change this into exponential form, it would get you 3 to the y equals x. 3 to the y equals x because of base answer exponent. But then with an inverse, you got to switch the x and the y. So that's why it's this. But the easy thing is whatever the base is, you're just going to write 3 to the x equals y. If it's the base of 4, 4 to the x equals y, and so on. The next question says write it as a single log. So I'm going to write one log here. I'm going to realize that there's an x, a y, and a w here, and they're all connected by addition and subtraction. The first two, the x and the y, are together, so they're reading it left to right would be the proper way, is going to be x times y, because addition means multiplication. Then you're going to divide by w, because division means subtraction. This means to multiply, and this means to divide. Okay, now the numbers in front are cowboys, aka exponents, that need to go back on top of their horses, the base. So I'm going to write this as 1/3 on my x and my y, and I'll write the squared here. You could also write this as this, the cube root of x, y over w squared, because that's the same thing as a power of 1/3. This question is a little weird, but they want you to find the one that's not a solution to the equation. So the first thing you have to do is actually try to solve for t. Now you could do y1 and y2 and find the intersection. That would be one way to get the t value, but the proper way, and the way that it'll explain the choices, is to take the log of either side so that this comes down, and you'll end up getting t log 3 equals log 3 cube root of 10. Now to get the t alone, you're going to divide by log 3. That will cancel, and you'll get some decimal. So whatever this decimal is, you will be able to actually plug in all the choices and find the one that's not equal to it. But the real way to find out why the answer is choice 2 is this. If you remember, I taught you the formula for change of base. It allows you to write this expression here into one log. The base is the guy on the bottom, which is a 3, I'm sorry, and then the argument is the guy on top. So that tells you why choice 4 is good, because that completely matches that. Now the reason why choice 1 is good is because if you rewrote this, writing 10 to the 1/3, because that's the same thing as a cube root, and you brought that to the front, that would be matching choice 1. So that explains that. Now, why is choice 3 okay? Well, let's think about it. If you have 3t equals the cube root of 10 as your first, like your starting point, which is what they gave you from up there, what you can do is you can actually cube both sides, and that would get rid of the cube root, and that would get you 10. This is really 3 to the 3rd now, which gets you 27 to the t. Writing that in exponential form tells you your base is this, and this is the inside of the log. So that's why that is correct. This is not the right form because the base is not 10, the base is the 27 over here. So that's the long way of explaining it. The easy way to get this answer is to do what we did first, getting this division. You'll get some number, and you're going to plug all the choices into your calculator until you find the one that doesn't match that number. This question is all calculator. All you guys need to remember how to do is press the button second, find the button matrix, which is in blue on the left side. You're going to go to math, and you're going to choose R, R, E, F, and you're going to have this big parenthesis here. And then to get the inside, you're going to press alpha, and then press a zoom. And then you're going to make sure it's a 3-row by 4 column. You're going to put all these coefficients in. So 1 for that, 1 for that, 4, -5, 4, 19. So the calculator screen should look like RREF parenthesis bracket 1, 5, -1, -20, 4, -5, 4, 19, and -1, -5, -5, and 2. You're going to press enter, and that's going to give you all these numbers with 1, 1, 1 as the diagonal, and you're going to have -2, -3, and 3 in the final column, and that tells you A. So that tells you that this is A, this is B, and this is C, because that's the correct order. They want you to find the one that's not an answer in the choices, and the one that's not an answer in the choices is choice 2, because we have -2, we have 3, and we have -3. This question just asks you to graph, so you're going to plug this into y1, the equation. I would change my window to be 0 to 10 for my x min and my x max, because you kind of want to make your calculator look like your picture, like the graph. My y min is also going to be 0, and my y max is going to be 400. Now you got to figure out what this is scaled by, so you're going to do some brain power here and realize that they're skipping every box, so that's 2. that's 3, that's 4, that's 5, that's 6, that's 7, 8, 9, and that matches 10. Great. This is 100, so there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 boxes. So let's see if they're counting by 20s, because 100 divided by 5 would get you 20. So 20, 40, 60, 80, 100 works, okay, that's good. 120, 140, 160, 180, 200, 220, 240, 260, 280, 300, 320, 340, 360, 380, boom, 400. That's nice. So you're just going to go to your table and actually plot. You're going to plot as many points as possible to make this graph look accurate. You don't have to make it exact, but you just want to estimate. Anyway, so I'm just going to give you my best estimate on all these points. So I'm looking at my table and I'm plotting these points as best as I can. So 1, 2, 3, that's about here. 6 is about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think one of these are really nice. I think like 8 is at 300, so I'm going to skip to that. 8 is at 300, which is right here. Okay, and you're going to make a nice smooth curve, and you're going to put your arrow at the end. The more points you have, the more accurate it's going to look. All right, this question says loudness in decibels is measured in decibels. The formula below for loudness is given by this equation. This is 10 times log I divided by I0. They're telling you I0 is this very soft sound called the threshold sound. D is your decibel rating and I is the intensity of the sound. The threshold sound to an audible average human is 1 point whatever. So threshold is that. So we know that I0 equals 1.0 times 10 to the negative 12th. If the gunshot fire from a rifle has an intensity of this, so that would be I would equal 2.5 times 10 to the 13th. What is the noise level in decibels of the rifle? So we want to find D using that equation. And then we have to figure out if a decibel rating is greater than 100 could result in hearing loss. Should a hunter wear ear protection when using the rifle? So first we got to do 10 times log of I, which we know is 2.5 times 10 to the 13th. This is just written as scientific notation, over 1.0 times 10 to the negative 12th. You're going to plug that in, and you're going to end up getting a D value of about 253.979 decibels. And then you're going to say, well, 253.797 is definitely bigger than 100. So yes, he should wear it. Because 254, let's round it to, is greater than 100. This question you're going to algebraically solve for x and y. Right now we have a line and we have a circle. Now this is what you're not going to do. Please do not square root this whole thing. I know that you want to and it seems easy, but that's like an easy shortcut that does not work because of this plus sign in between. What you have to do is you have to go the long way, which means we're going to set the first equation equal to y by subtracting the x and subtracting the 2. So y equals negative x minus 2. And you're going to use a process called substitution. So basically you're going to replace one letter with what it's equivalent to so that the whole equation becomes the same letter. So the first part is going to stay the same. And then that's going to go in here. Combining like terms in that second parentheses, we'll get negative x plus 2 squared equals 16. You're going to have to box method these guys because they're squared with a plus sign in between. So I get 2x squared plus 4x plus 4 plus That's x squared minus 2x, and 4. So that's going to get you x squared minus 4x plus 4 equals 16. Combining like terms, you'll realize that these guys cancel. You'll end up with 2x squared plus 8 equals 16. Solving for x, you're going to subtract your 8. You're going to get 2x squared equals 8, divide by 2. X squared equals 4 now. Take your square root. You get x equals plus or minus 2, meaning that the circle and the line are crossing at 2 points, 2 and negative 2. So we now need to find the y value that goes with these x values, because that's a system of equations. To find your y value, you're going to go back to the top, and remember, you solved for y. You solved that, you found out that y was this guy, minus x minus 2. So I'm going to plug into negative x minus 2. Negative 2 minus 2 gets me negative 4 for the first y value, and negative 2 minus 2, that gets me 0 for the second, and that's my answer. This guy, you're going to put this into L1 and L2 because they're asking for an exponential regression equation. You're around to the nearest thousandth. So you're going to type that into L1, L2, and then you're going to, so to get to L1, L2, first off, you're going to press stat edit, enter the data in, then you're going to press stat calc, and you're going to choose 0, which is exponential regression, and you're going to plug into y equals ab to the x. You're going to find that a will round to 180.377 on your calculator, and then b will round to 0.954 to the x. Okay, so then the second part says determine algebraically, keyword here, to nearest tenth, also important, when the temperature will be 100. So you're going to take your equation that you have right here and set it equal to 100. And you're going to have to solve for x. So you're going to divide by this to start to get x alone. That divide is going to get you about 0.554, and you're going to keep that in your calculator because I'm sure that's longer than that. All right, I'm putting a log on either side. The reason why is because I want to bring him down because I'm solving for him. All right, now to solve for x, you're going to divide by log of 0.954. You're going to divide by that, and you'll get x is about 12.5 minutes. Remember, we wanted to round to the nearest tenth. They asked that. They ask here, use an appropriate procedure to show that x minus 4 is a factor of this function. Explain your answer. You could do synthetic division here. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to find a remainder of 0. You could also do long division with this and find a remainder of 0 and explain that it's a factor because there's a remainder of 0. But the easiest way to do this is to use the remainder theorem. You switch the sign, so x equals 4, and you're going to plug in f of 4 into all the x values. And you'll get 0. So you're going to say because f of 4 equals 0, the remainder is 0, and x minus 4 is a factor. All right, this guy, they want you to find a, so they want you to basically combine these two x values to just get it down to 1x. The first thing you're going to do is multiply the exponents, because a power to a power gets you multiplication. Then I'm going to change this guy, the root, to power over root. Almost there. To get 1x value, you have to remember that when you multiply, you add exponents. So that'll get you x to the 6 over 3. And 6 over 3 is 2, so a equals 2. All right, you're going to solve for x here. So first off, you want the radical to be as lone as possible. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to subtract this x over. Now, the radical has this 3 next to it, but it's not a huge deal. Mostly you want to always break the addition, because with this I can square both sides, and squaring this will square that and that easily because it's multiplied. So I'll get you 9x minus 2. This you're going to have to do out twice and do box method or FOIL. I'm not going to show you, I'm just going to do it in my head. You guys can do box method and get this. This is going to get you 9x minus 18. X squared likes to equal 0, so you're going to subtract 9x over, add the 18 over. You'll get 0 equals x squared minus 33x plus 144. Now, you're going to do AM. Finding your factors of 144 that add to negative 33. That's negative 6 and negative 27. So you're going to have two answers, x equals 6 and x equals 27. You're going to make sure to check your answers. You can use your table by putting y1 and y2. This is going to reject because that one doesn't work, but 6 does. Okay, last question. You're going to plug this into your calculator in the y equals using math and going up to log base, and you can plug it in. And you're going to get points, and then you're going to state the domain and range, and we're going to state the equation of the asymptote. When you graph it, you should realize your asymptote is at 3. You don't have to graph this, but if you do, make sure it's dotted. And then you're going to plot like 3 to 5 points to get accuracy. So I think 2 is at 0, this is at 1, negative 1's at 2, and then which one? 1, 2, 5 is at 3, negative 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to make your arc here. If you draw it all the way to the end of the graph, you don't need an arrow, but I always do it just to be safe. If you don't do this, you will get points off. You need to show that you know it goes down. And you also cannot pass that barrier. If you so happen to slip your hand and go over the 3, I have to take a point off. I'll label it just for fun, f of x. Okay, the domain. The domain is all about that asymptote. You have to make sure you realize that the domain only exists from there on. So x is less than 3. The range is always going to be all reals because it goes all the way down and all the way up. And the asymptote is x equals 3. And that's that. Study up. I'll see you soon.